to the Play Action Podcast, everybody. I know it's been a hot 2 weeks, I think, since we've been on here last.
Yep.
Jeff's been on the Disney cruise doing some things. Living the dream
blast.
out there,
Yeah,
doing the
great.
parent stuff. A lot has been going on in the NFL. So today's show is going to be built around a little bit more than just the recap that we normally do, but we want to get into kind of, since it's past the midway point, some of our takes at the start of the year, how they've aligned with where the NFL is at right now, and just getting into, I guess, the current events in the NFL and everything that's been going on. So, Jeff, so far with the NFL, where we're at, what are your thoughts on kind of where we stand with the league and everything that's going on so far?
This was the funniest, most rocky fucking start for every favorite in the NFL to kind of kick off this season. And then all of that just has shifted in the last like 3 to 4 weeks, where it's like these teams have finally come alive and have actually started to show up. I was dying at the standings as they were. There are some standouts or some wild cards that we wouldn't necessarily have thought, like the Vikings being a big team right now. That was a kind of shock for sure. I don't think any of us had that on the card, but especially after losing Cousins and that whole thing. And we just, I just didn't expect that to come out that way. And then the way that they've just played has just been crazy. Defense has played phenomenal. And then the Detroit Lions have just shown up and been like, we're here. We're ready to fucking stay. And
that's funny. It's funny that you mentioned those two teams because especially over this last week, they actually kind of look like they came down a notch this past weekend.
You really think so? I think the Vikings have been on a little bit of a spell here, but nothing that to me registers that they're going to lose potentially a playoff spot. Just the way that the divisions are rocking.
I agree with you there. I think more I'm coming from the point of like, you're just starting to see good old Sam Darnold linger back into play. They're not as sound. And this is what I said at the beginning is like the good teams separate and the good players separate later on the back half of the year when shit starts to matter and players just get better, right? I think Sam Darnold is what he is. I don't think he's getting better at this point. I think it's just more of a, can I manage this team?
Yeah.
Because I don't have to do everything type of deal. And then on the Detroit side, Goff just threw 5 fucking interceptions.
Yeah, that was wild. I felt like that was
still won.
Yeah, I felt like that was all culminated from his entire season so far and just not throwing anything and almost being near perfect to this point, at least until last week. And then I was just like, I guess this is the fucking game. Like, everyone gets one. And like this guy got one for sure.
To do that and win though?
5 picks and win. Yeah, I know. That's crazy. But then
this is actually, this is the funniest thing. This is the funniest thing. And this stat, I saw this graphic. You had Jared Goff throw 5 interceptions in a game, and they won. Yeah. Yet you have Joe Burrow throw 5 touchdowns in a game.
Touchdowns. Yeah.
And they fucking lose. Like, I saw that stat. I was like, dude, that's just the season the Bengals are having. And man, that hits hard because it's like, wow. It's crazy. That's football. It's a team sport. And at the end of the day, the Lions, I would say, are probably the best team on paper as a whole right now.
Yeah, between that and as a whole, for sure. I think honestly, like it's like for them, it sucks. The biggest blow to that was like Aiden Hutchinson. Like that, without huge. That's the difference maker on, is this team got enough defensively to kind of carry itself through the playoffs and into that big game. But everything else, like the way that their team operates and clicks and the run game and the pass game is so efficient aside from the last game here. Detroit 100% has been the standout, and that's the wild part to even say that sentence, given the fact that KC is still KC doing what they're doing. But I just fuck those guys. Like we're gonna categorize that because we expect it, right? I think that's the biggest thing for that. But I want to say, between KC and Detroit, that's the early match that I'm looking to see in the Super Bowl.
Okay, so yeah, we're just gonna dive into, I guess, like halfway. Who's gonna be our Super Bowl matchup picks here?
Might as
So
well.
that's your pick, eh? KC Detroit.
I think that's it. I hard pressed. If not for KC, then I want to say the other team that's going to be there most likely, and I know this is going to fucking burn you up, is the Baltimore Ravens. I think that is the team that right now is just a standout. Outside of it, they have a run game that is
shit, dude.
almost unstoppable. They are executing. Say what you want about Lamar Jackson. We can kick back into that conversation, but he has been the guy so far this season and has shown up pretty fucking well.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't take
So it's funny seeing that record, and then obviously, like, I don't know, like we talked about Buffalo. That division as a whole right now in the AFC East is an absolute shit show because everyone, like, I don't know, are the Dolphins better than the Jets? Dolphins haven't had fucking their quarterback for half the season, and I'd still consider them better than the Jets right now at this point, and that's a wild statement. And then, but I said the Jets. I know we talked about this right before. I took the Jets in that third spot. It was a wild take, I think, at the beginning of the season, but it's the whole principle of it was Aaron Rodgers, the team, the coaching,
the defense,
and winning. The biggest thing for me was winning.
Easy schedule too.
I had Buffalo taking this division because I thought, hey, these guys have won. They have a winning culture. They know what it takes. They're going to get it done. Regardless of the assets that might have been lost, these guys still know what it takes to win, and they've been winning for the past couple of years. That hadn't happened yet with the Jets. So that was my biggest thing. And lo and behold, we've just had a fucking war zone in New York in that team, in that organization. So that was definitely,
man. Yeah. And I love the Jets at the start of the year, but I just think it's a lot, man, a lot. And it unraveled
too much
quickly
happening.
And they didn't win and they let it get away from them. And this past week was like, if you had any hope coming off that Houston game and then going into Arizona, like you had to win that game.
Yeah.
Now you're sitting at 3-7, and not only did you lose to Arizona, you didn't even fucking contend with them, period.
Yeah.
So when you look at this team, it's like, no, they're done. Like I have no hope with what they're doing. It's a reset right now. You reset, you figure out what you're doing moving forward with Aaron Rodgers and those pieces. And if you want to run it back one more time, you get on the same page and you do that. But that's a wrap, man. They got to start looking into finding another quarterback to lead this team. And they're wasting, a good defense that hasn't looked like the defense we all thought. So you definitely won that take where Buffalo's sitting pretty at 8-2. The Jets, look at the bottom of this division right now. Miami's 3-6, the Jets are 3-7, and the Patriots are 3-7.
Yeah.
Would you if I told you
that's exactly how I called it, to be honest?
Right now, the placement. That's exactly
that's the placement, yeah. But
so
that's
fucking on top of the world right now with that take.
Yeah, on the AFC East, let's lock this shit in.
That's Buffalo. That's a locked-in division winner right there. And this week we got Bills, Chiefs for big game here. This is ultimately
massive.
Kind of go hand in hand with the seeding in the playoffs. And
it's a huge game for that.
And these home matchups. And out of Buffalo, I'm already getting the updates like Dalton Kincaid's out, Keon Coleman's out. They're missing a lot of pieces, so I don't know how this is going to look.
Casey does it again.
I think I saw, was Buffalo favored in this game too?
No
From what
way.
I saw, I swear to God, Buffalo was favored in this game. And we know when the Chiefs are underdogs, you're taking the Chiefs. I think the record in like one score line games is wild. Let's sprinkle some money on the Chiefs in this game. That's for sure. Although I will say Chiefs are without Harrison Butker now for, I think it's like 4 weeks, a month, something like that.
You are right. Minus 130, Bills favored in the game.
Bills are favored. Missing a lot of pieces too. Yeah. A little bit of a head scratcher. So I will absolutely, before we even get into any takes for the upcoming week in that pod, I don't think I'm going against the Chiefs, man. Just with the way this season's been going too, everything's going their way.
Josh Allen has never had a great time against Patrick Mahomes.
You know what? In the regular
So,
season, he's actually done pretty well against them.
yeah. I don't know. This
It's
is a
the
big, when
playoffs, right?
we'll call it a big game, right? Yeah, still
Huge.
greatest game I've ever watched. But yeah, no, it's hard to bet against them. Like that's the number one. It's just this defense, and like it's so funny. We talked about, obviously we're talking about the preview and what we said. So I locked in a pretty nice bet at the beginning of the season. I know we were going to talk about this a little bit, and Patrick Mahomes for 30 touchdowns is going to fucking sell this bet. How the fuck does that happen? Like 30 touchdowns now, obviously, like sometimes they don't quite get there, but every season following a lesser season for Patrick Mahomes in his career, I think the one season was 26, and then he threw 38. And it was in 3 straight seasons of 35 plus. Then he throws that 27, I think, last year. I'm going, all right, let's see it. Let's go back right to the big number and at least go to 30. I didn't go to 35. I think his line was something like that at the beginning of the season. I was like, no, I'll take a little less just because of that season. This guy's going to fucking sell, man. Like, what the fuck? Goat my ass. Like, what the fuck is this?
I don't think anybody can look at us with a straight face and say that Kansas City is winning because of Patrick Mahomes.
No,
not yet. It is the defense, it's the coaching, and they're winning all these games, these one-score games, by crazy plays, blocked field goals. You get the flag in the Bengals game, like just. It's unbelievable how you're stringing together this many wins. So no wonder everybody's looking at it going, this has to crack at some point, right?
Yeah, like, and that's what they're thinking, the Bills. I think they've been that dog in a couple games this season where they ran up against a pretty good team, and this is just another one. But it's hard to not take the Chiefs, man. Like, it's just so hard to not take them.
Yeah, it blows my mind when you look at this team.
Like, just run the fucking court at this point. Like
these guys are picking up dudes off the street. Yeah. Fucking
Kareem, how you doing?
You get DeAndre Hopkins out here killing it.
Yeah, like, look at this team.
What am I watching right now?
Start of the season. Yeah, we did have that. We'll kind of run through this as it was for the standings and how it lies today. But holy shit, like AFC East definitely. We were able to lock in on that, and there's still plenty of season left here, but this is it's a midway point. We're looking pretty going forward. AFC North, I know this is one that you want to definitely talk about. I don't think anyone expected the Steelers to be in this position, leading the AFC North. Now I think we had maybe 4 pods ago, maybe 5. When you asked a certain question, do you think the Steelers are pretenders or contenders? And the good question to ask here would be, do you still believe that they are pretenders, or do you think these guys have a shot?
No, well, they have to. They're going to be contenders now. They're going for the title in the division now. Before I even dive into that,
still got a bit of that game this season left though. Like the shit can happen,
buddy.
We saw what happened with Jacksonville.
Stretch of this schedule that they have the remaining. What is it? 8 games of the season here is this is going to be very tough for them. And you're going to see what this team is made of. Like, it's funny because some Steelers fan made a TikTok about before the Commanders game talking about, the Commanders haven't played anyone good, this and that. Like, buddy, have you seen the record of the teams that you guys have played? Yeah. Pittsburgh hasn't played anybody good. They've played the Giants. They've played the Colts. They've played just a run of dog shit teams. And if I gave you the collective record, it'd be fucking negative. So Pittsburgh hasn't played anyone either. So we're going to see. They're playing Baltimore this weekend. We'll see how they fare. Now, divisional opponents, it's going to be different. I know Pittsburgh always plays them well. But I'm interested to see how Russ looks against a team that's semi-competent. But the Ravens' defense hasn't even been great either. You know, they got awful pass defense. The run defense is good, but just atrocious pass defense. So we'll see. We'll see how they fare. Yep. But you can't say they're not contenders right now. Yeah. But when you say contenders, they could make the playoffs and just lose first round like they always do.
Yeah, so, but you're still
is that classified as a contender? Do you want to classify that as contenders?
Are we going to say contenders are all playoff teams?
Like, and
dude,
then
pretenders are the ones that are here that we think are going to fall off? That's the question.
So when I look at this and I'm like, okay, we know Mike Tomlin's a good coach. In a season where it's just spelled mediocrity across the league, This has been the most mediocre football season I've seen across the board. Like, how many 2-win teams there are?
There.
What was it, a week or two ago? There was like 9 2-win teams. There just is no good football teams in this league. You got a handful of them, and that's it. And even those teams aren't even great. Like, you look at the Chiefs, it's like, dude, what? I think they compared.
This reminds me of those seasons where Brady just absolutely shit on the AFC East for fucking forever. And
that's
it was
what
just
it's turning
like,
into for the Chiefs,
we're going to do it.
Shitty division.
It is.
You look at their record, they're undefeated. We were comparing stats to Tom Brady's undefeated year.
Yeah.
Dude, Mahomes versus Brady, it's not even fucking close, man. The fact that Mahomes is even on the MVP card right now is a fucking joke. And if
I think it's come back a little bit, but
he was
with
me.
Yeah.
Like, he has no right to be anywhere near any of those guys.
Well, that's the wild part, is like where those things sit right now. And the record is the whole story with that, which is stupid because, like, I get it, most valuable player to your team, but if you're not executing to be that most valuable player, he's not even close. Like, this is the fucking debauchery of this, how the shit works.
It's been their run game. Like, Kareem Hunt is out here getting 20 carries a game.
Yeah, their run. Yeah, their runs. Yeah, their run has just been killing it.
Mahomes is doing what he needs to do, but by no fucking means is he what's spinning the wheel for this fucking team right now.
Yeah.
It's just,
I think it's like, does he have to, right? And that's the crazy part, is like, does he even have to? And then I think that's where it's running. But then to have these odds where it's like, this guy is third right now in MVP voting. Like that's fucked.
How the fuck does that even make sense, man?
Yeah.
Like that, that's where I look at this stuff. I'm like, all right, you know what? Fuck your shitty awards. I could care less. Do your MVP votes. It's all biased nonsense anyway.
Yeah.
I've seen this shit. It's the same narrative. They pick their teams. They like their guys. It is what it is. Like last year, I look at right now, and you know I hate the fucking Ravens. Lamar is like the MVP bar none.
Yeah.
No one's even close to him right now. And I look at last season from Lamar. I'm like, last season should have probably been McCaffrey MVP, but because this is just a quarterback award, and I think it should just essentially be a quarterback award from now on.
Yeah.
Because last year it wasn't Lamar, but when you look at this year, it's like, like now you can see this is what an MVP is. This is the level that they're playing at. Like Lamar is playing great.
Yeah.
But then my counterpoint to that is, if
I was gonna say we're gonna cap that.
No. Well, I would never cap it on that.
Yeah.
If Cincinnati had just closed that last fucking game out.
Yeah.
You were talking about Joe Burrow as the MVP, and you were talking about Jamar Chase as the
That's the wild part in this conversation. So
simple as that.
The passing season so far that Joe Burrow is having, and his current, and even just in general, he's plus 2,500 right now on an MVP. That's fucking ridiculous.
Well, you got to remember,
for the record, like it is the record.
So biased too.
What is then the play? Like, listen, Buddy's got number 1 in passing yards.
Yeah.
Was he fucking number 2 in touchdowns?
Number 1 in TDs. He's tied for first with TDs.
Tied for first in TDs. What's the impact? Like passer rating? We're going to talk.
He's got. If you want to dive into like not just the basic stats, like EPA. All of that shit, like Joe Burrow is at the top, man. He's the most accurate quarterback in the league. And then you look at the pressures he got from that Ravens game. He was pressured. I don't have the number right here. The amount of times he was pressured and what he was able to do with that pressure is just incredible. And I don't it's hard for me to sit here. That's why the season's been tough, is because you got a guy like that. And we can't even celebrate some of these things because they're just not winning games, man. Like, it's crazy to me.
This is absurd. So 3rd in QBR, 2nd in passer rating. Like,
he's
1st in fucking, like you said, touchdowns, 1st in passing yards. And this is the ridiculousness of this. Like, so you then have Patrick Mahomes at plus 650, solely based on the record of the team, not on the actual, like, he's 12th in passing yards, 10th in touchdowns.
Yep.
Fucking, I think he's like 7th or 8th in fucking passer rating.
Yeah. Record
Like,
or not, how do you sit there and say Patrick Mahomes is ahead of Joe Burrow on the MVP ladder? Like, if
he's
anything,
17th in passer rating.
yeah.
Like, what the
If
fuck is going
if
on?
anything, I think you're seeing that the reason Bengals are even in games is because of the fact that they have Joe Burrow. Like, he is their fucking team right now. They have no defense whatsoever. And then you look at the other side, it's like, who's winning those games for the Chiefs? It's not Patrick Mahomes.
No.
So that's where I'm like, you kind of get lost in this as the season goes, and it's confusing to me. The award is confusing, but I'll tell you this much: if there's certain ways this can go, if Baltimore loses to the Steelers this weekend, and then the Bengals start ripping off some games here, I think the narrative can shift, right? Because it's already there, but you got to win games.
Yeah.
So we have two big games coming up. We got the Chargers this weekend. We got a bye, and then we got the Steelers. You got to win those two games. You have to. Or it's night-night on all that shit.
Yeah.
And you got Jamar Chase going for the fucking Triple Crown right now. Like, how unbelievable is that?
Yeah. Well, that's all of it, right? Like, that's why it's just mind-blowing what the record is so far this season, and the defense has just been what they are, right? And that's the biggest thing.
It's sad.
The Ravens, I think how this ends is still Ravens are going to take it. I think that's what I said at the beginning of the season. I did say Bengals were second. I think Steelers were third and Browns fourth.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, like, injuries happen. The Browns are out of it. They lost to Sean. It is what it is. Like, starts like that. But kind of back to my point where we kind of got off topic there, there's a lot of mediocrity in the league this year. And I think if you saw the clip of what Tom Brady said in one of these interview things he did, where he was talking about kids coming out of college and the programs and how that's going and leading into the NFL. And, you know, quarterbacks are expected to just play right away and be amazing, or they're done. Like, there's a very short leash. It's different nowadays. And I think that's affecting the product in the league. And I think you're seeing that. There's also a lot worse coaching, it feels like to me. Like, I'm not seeing it. Just a lot of poor coaching around the league, a lot of bad competitive play. And that's why you get all these teams that are just like mediocre. So when I look at Pittsburgh, I think I saw there was this stat that I had saved, and it was to do with Pittsburgh's, not their record. So they haven't been a large underdog, like a double-digit underdog in any game for like the last 30 years or something like that. Like, this wild stat. And that just shows like how consistent Pittsburgh's been, right? Every year, Tomlin,
keep the same coach.
So now it's like you got a team that they found a quarterback that can actually move the ball. They don't have Kenny Pickett, who struggles to do everything. They actually have a guy who's doing something. And you got the defense. They're just so sound. They make plays on special teams. They do everything that you need to do to win football games. They're flourishing right now because they don't have a lot of competition, unfortunately. Like, when you look at these teams, it's like Baltimore's the team, but I'm not afraid of the Bills. The Chiefs look like they're going to blow a tire at some point. Yeah. You're not really. Houston doesn't look that great. Who are you afraid of? Like, nobody's that team to me.
I would say, to me, the team right now that the Chiefs should be afraid of is the Ravens. I think if the Bengals were to figure out the defensive side of the game, that should be the team that you're terrified of, because Burrow's had the axe. He swung it before. He's killed the giant.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to let those guys in the playoffs. I'm telling you right now.
And I think that's a big thing. But the Bills, like you said, I don't think, like, winning culture is a big thing. But there's nothing on the Bills that terrifies me. The consistency of what's happened when Josh Allen gets forcing on plays is not the same as what happens when the Chiefs get there. They just start executing. There's a clear difference there. And I think we've seen that. And that's where I would say the Chiefs are still that team, because they will come through in that moment, and they've shown that, and they can do that. And even this season, they've done it multiple times already and won games that they otherwise shouldn't have. And you say that same thing about the other teams. You know, the Ravens at the end of the game, not able to execute on that win in the first, and then just continued. The Bengals have had these problems and struggles. Your teams that are supposed to be your contenders out of the AFC, they're just not necessarily scary. And that's the biggest thing. But when you get talking about the NFC, and we'll get into that after, there are some teams that will kind of look at you, and I can't say that no one's not thinking about Detroit right now, because they just got people thinking, what the fuck's coming next? Because Dan Campbell's a fucking lunatic. And the fucking team rides and dies with this guy. And that's a huge thing. So
that's a scary thing, man.
That's a scary thing. They'll do anything. Like, you got linemen getting fucking touchdowns out here repeatedly and then getting called back. But whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter, because he's just throwing anything at the table at this point. And and he's just working the team, and the team's ready to fight. So that's the crazy part. But the AFC right now, like, I don't see anyone that's a huge standout. We'll kind of get in the AFC South here. The Texans have not looked what the Texans were last year. And that was to be, I think I had said that, you know, they're still first right now. We had put a little bit, like, I can't say anything about the fucking AFC South, because I had Jacksonville originally taking this fucking division.
I mean, we both kind of had them.
We thought, right?
But actually, before we dive into that as a whole, you kind of mentioned something with the Dan Campbell stuff. I just want to segue off of just leaving that AFC North there. And this is me kind of just, you know, giving props to the Steelers for where they're at, which unfortunately I've seen it my entire life. And that's part of where the hatred comes from, is I've watched two organizations, in the Steelers and the Ravens, be so consistently good and win for the entirety of me being an NFL fan, that it's like, it's so hard to see it year in and year out. Mm-hmm. But man, when you look at this team and you get Mike Tomlin, and you see at the end of that Commanders game, when they got them to jump off sides on that final play, did you just watch the guys celebrate?
Got him.
Getting that, dude, it's a scary thing when you get a team to buy in. Yeah. And when they start winning games, man, they're going to just play that much harder, and they're going to believe that much more. And that's the thing when I look at Pittsburgh, is like, fuck, man, if they believe, they could be a really good team, you know? So this stretch is going to show what they're about. And I don't want them to get hot, man, because that's not a team I'd want to play, man. They're sound at every level.
They are. That's the thing.
It's a scary thought. Yeah. So you never know. This is going to be a lot of tell.
So we're saying out of this that Pittsburgh might be the contender out of the AFC.
I honestly think they're going to, it's going to be a close game with Baltimore this weekend. I don't expect Baltimore to beat them handedly. This is going to be a tight game. So it's going to be cool, man. This weekend we're going to get into it, but the slate of games, man, there's going to be some good football with a lot on the line. But that was the last thing I wanted to touch on, is just the buy-in from the Pittsburgh side of things, and you can see it, you can feel it. But back to the AFC South, this bit of a toss-up. Like, Houston's, they've won, but it's been nothing crazy. Stroud, what's going on here? Everybody said this guy was the second.
Not this fucker. Not this guy.
Everybody is on this guy, but man, you got to expect that he's not going to be that. No, I think good.
I think the biggest thing is you can expect with teams like this to go through a sophomore slump. Like, that was unexpected. That was my take at the beginning of the season, that I didn't expect them to get that and get into that spot. Even last year, it was heightened, almost like they're a shock factor every week. That was my take, that every single time that they would go in, they would be almost shocking teams. This is like Minnesota, this year. It's not what you expected to go up against, but you're dealing with it. And that was the biggest thing with Stroud, where I thought, this guy threw 4,400 yards and fucking whatever, and had a massive season, and obviously got way into a conversation about, elite quarterback and everything like this. And I still think he's that guy potentially, but he's been getting smoked at the line. The offensive line has been crushing them. And that matters. And we'll get like, I know we just ended on we're going to get into the NFC, but that's the same thing that is happening. What's happening now is what's happening with the Bears and Caleb Williams. And just, you got to defend your guy and got to build out from the offensive line when you bring in these generational quarterbacks to actually start running what you need to run in an offense. And obviously they had it a bit better last season, and they showed, and they shocked some teams. But they're still first. And I think a big part of this being first is actually Joe Mixon and nothing to do with Stroud.
Yes,
so
very much so.
It's crazy to me
to
see.
Joe, man.
Yeah, no, seriously, huge. And he's missed fucking games. And the games that he's missed, they lost. So
but Joe's getting 20 plus carries a game.
Massive
and you can see that offense runs through Joe Mixon right now. And dude, he's a hell of a running back. It's nice to see him flourishing in a scheme that actually allows for someone to be successful in the run game.
Yeah.
But dude, I think you gotta, and I really wanted to touch on this going into this because there's been so much scrutinizing of these young quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson, especially. You got Caleb Williams and this and that. Like, man, nowadays, there's no breathing room to develop at all. You're like expected to be the next coming of Peyton Manning right out of the gate, and it makes no sense to me. It just blows my mind. And you look at a guy who's so raw like Anthony Richardson. The guy's only played like 14 collegiate games before he came in. He's young as fuck. And you're talking about starting Joe Flacco and just throwing in the towel on this guy? Like,
wild.
What kind of learning curve do we have in this league now?
Yeah, we said
like,
it's
what the fuck is that?
The biggest thing, and I know we've talked about this on the pod. We've discussed this. Aaron Rodgers has spoken. Aaron Rodgers is an interesting fucking guy, but this one he gets right 100 times over, in that you need to develop that foundational knowledge of how the NFL operates. You need to be at practice, learning the game, learning it from the eyes of the NFL. It's not like the speed and the pace of practice is not going to then be similar to that of the game. And you're not going to be making mistakes in game when you're learning from a backup perspective and you're learning the game in a different way. Drake May has shown that has been part of the proper development in coming in and being able to do some of what he's been able to do in New England. And Caleb didn't get that opportunity. Jaden just kind of picked it up, which is rare, but again, it's possible. But we might see something happen with Washington similar to what we're seeing with CJ Stroud. So
yeah, well, you're seeing it now. Like past couple games, Jaden Daniels has come back to earth a little bit, right?
He has come.
That's where it's like the good separates later on, and now you got film on you. You've played some games. People can attack you in different ways. But man,
you got to learn.
I just think there needs to be a little bit more patience around some of these
100%.
guys. And not only that, you got to look to the coaches that have a hand in this too. Like, what is your plan with these young guys, and how are you developing these guys as athletes and as human beings too, like and leaders of your football team? What kind of system do you have in place? So this goes back to me talking about how dog shit the coaching's been this year. Is you're not only seeing it just on the field as a team, but just the development of these younger players too, and how they're transitioning to the professional leagues. Like, it's taken a massive hit, man. And it sucks to see, because they're young guys with a lot of talent. And we're just crashing out on them so quick. Like,
I think the funniest thing right now is like Carolina obviously has done whatever the fuck they've been doing. Now putting Bryce back into the situation hasn't looked horrific.
Yeah, bro, I feel for that guy too, man.
Feel for him. Yeah, you want him to succeed at this point, because he's just been kind of, thrown up against it, then just got absolutely shit on by the organization in so many ways, just from like again, your point, developmental. And then, guys like Anthony Richardson, which hard to, he's not done any favors for himself in this season.
No,
but that
young,
being
man.
said, he's still young, and you got to learn
to succeed.
So
right? You got to teach him.
I think that's part of what that was too. Obviously, kind of copping out on the season and having the injury woes that this guy has early on. It's not a great look, and I think that's the tough part if you're a Colts fan, is watching that hey, you think you have the guy here now, and he's not playing up to that caliber, and then he's kind of copping out on situations. And what do you do in that scenario as a coach, right? Like, what do you intend to do if not to like highlight, that you got to be better? And sometimes that requires you're going to take a fucking few reps off here. Like you're not going to go back this game, and you're not going to go back the next game.
You had to
do it. So I think that's a learning curve for a young guy. The Bryce Young situation was kind of just, to not point blame, and then point blame is atrocious. And that organization just
we know
shit like
right
now.
That is not completely on Bryce, man. Like that organization is god awful with the way they handle and approach everything. And not to mention the team they built around him his rookie year too. Just the island of misfit players they assembled in there, and to expect a young guy like him to come in there and be successful was just, it blows my mind. Like I look at some of these organizations, and you saw it last night, man. Like Saquon Barkley, what he's doing on the Eagles, and I look at the Giants, and I'm like, how the fuck do you let a guy like that walk out of your building?
It's absurd.
Like, what was your plan there? Letting this guy walk to a division opponent, as talented as Barkley is, like that is, I'm shaking my head, man. I'm shaking my head.
Well, I think the funniest thing is that clip that is online all over the place with the kid, fucking buddy's kid, and just saying what he should do, and everyone's like, "Yeah, that's what you should have done." Like, what the fuck are you thinking?
Take Jaden Daniels too.
Take Jaden Daniels. Don't trade Saquon. What are you doing? Like, I was like, that's
how
so fucking funny.
Is that? Now, mind you, they wouldn't have got Jaden Daniels where they were drafting, but
no.
You just
still funny,
man. When I look at that, I sit there and I'm just like, what kind of cap problems would the Giants have? You have no positional players that you're paying money to, aside from Daniel Jones, right? Like, where's your money being allocated? You got a rookie coming into the building, Malik Neighbors, who's a stud wide receiver. Could you imagine the offense with Barkley, Neighbors, and then at least Daniel Jones? Like, you'd have a more balanced attack. I just don't see where you're like,
huge miss.
We can't pay a running back. Like, is this narrative of running backs are replaceable? Is it just getting to people? Because you're not understanding what that means.
Yeah.
This
is the funniest part is like
being replaceable.
We talked early on, about the impact of Christian McCaffrey in the San Francisco lineup. Yeah. And what the fuck is Christian McCaffrey? Well, he's Saquon Barkley. That type of player is generational. You don't give that up. And you don't move on from that.
No shot.
And
I would argue that's even more valuable than a receiver too.
100%.
With the versatility of what they can do.
You can get receivers at different spots. Like, you see it more often than not. You see fucking where do you fail in a run game? You fail in a run game with a shitty running back. Like 9 times out of 10. Can you score a touchdown with a crappy receiver? 100%. Like, it just calls the right play. Get the great guy open. It can happen. But to have a running back push the line, fucking move the chains, keep on doing that and continue to do that.
His skill set and versatility
and your options are open. You're stupid for undervaluing that. So it was definitely a misstep 1,000 times over. Since we're kind of into the NFC now, we assume fucking Chiefs. Yeah, we both had the Chiefs. There's not even anything to really discuss. The Chargers had definitely gone on. I think it was 9.5 was their line at the season start. Yeah. And they're on target for that as of right now.
We talked about that
week schedule,
Mickey Mouse schedule, and how they'd probably get there. Like, and it's showing like they're playing just sound football, and you got a good quarterback at the helm. It's funny because the Chiefs and the Chargers they're playing identical football, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing sexy, gets it done, and it is what it
Broncos
is.
Broncos
are kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, these three teams are all literally the exact same.
Yeah, and then the Raiders are just an absolute shit show.
Sound football, that's what the Raiders are packing it up. They know that they got to rebuild this thing from the ground up, and that's okay, man. Give in. They're doing the right thing.
But I think we had said that we didn't expect a lot from this team, given the quarterback situation, given the very organizational shit that was going on. And then obviously that happened. I think our biggest one here that we both screwed up on was the AFC South with the Jaguars being a bit more of a contender here, and that's I think just they've had some injury struggle. The running back position has not been as strong as it was. That was a part of their game. Evan Engram losing out on a lot of the season so far. That was massive to not kick him off in the right direction.
Christian Kirk gone too for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley. Like this, it's a different team, and
it is.
Yeah, so we'll wrap that up as AFC goes. I think that's who do you think is the AFC? We'll kind of lead it out of who do you think your AFC favorite is to get into the Super Bowl?
I think with what I'm looking at, it sucks because the three teams that you're choosing, I just absolutely hate. Right? I hate.
Say it.
There's I can't fucking do it, bro. It's so hard for me to do it.
Oh,
fuck. You know what? I'm gonna go with a fucking shot here. I'm just gonna take it. It's gonna be the Bengals.
Oh, I love it.
Bengals.
I love it.
You know what?
I love it.
I'm seeing this shit all over the place, and part of me wants to believe so bad, but every fucking Sunday I turn the TV on and I have the hope going. I'm like, okay, and they just fuck it up again, and it's man, I'm past that point.
Bengals is the funniest fucking guy to text on the weekend because at one point, if the Bengals are losing, you will not hear from this guy for the entire rest of the week, like the rest of the week, like up until Thursday, and then it's a new day, it's a new tomorrow, and everything's fucking great again. Oh my god, so funny this season.
Honestly, this has been one of the hardest seasons I've had to watch. Oh, like losing these games,
hard games,
like double-digit leads to the Ravens twice with the numbers that Jamar Chase is putting up, bro. It's been an absolute circus act. Like I just can't fathom how we're losing some of these games. The Chiefs game with the flag, like I've been smashing my face through a wall. It feels like for the last 10, 11 weeks here. And I'm just hoping because the year we went to the Super Bowl, we were like 5-4 at our bye week midseason. It was the same shit. And we just hit our stride. And when I look at the competition in the AFC, if we can just somehow get into the dance, just somehow pull it together. And that's a lot to hope for, but this is the NFL. And it's the reason we watch the game. So I'm fucking holding on to it because I have Joey fucking B at the helm. And with that motherfucker, I swear to God, anything is possible. So
you're not wrong.
But it's the Ravens in all seriousness. It's the Ravens, man. Like that combination of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is
tough.
And I will say this, you know what? The Titans are getting flack for letting him go. And then you got the Cowboys for not signing Derrick Henry. But I'm going to say this, man. It's the system he's in and the fact that he's standing next to Lamar Jackson right now that is making him such a good player. It is the perfect fit. How do you stop the read option from those two guys?
No,
it's impossible. Right. They just have such a good combination. It fits perfectly, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. It's these running quarterbacks. It's the same as Saquon, man, and Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. When you pair these guys with these quarterbacks,
going to score at the touchdown?
It is a problem for defenses. It's a problem, and that's why it's working so well. If Saquon was in another offense, it's probably not going to be the same, right? You load the box differently. You're going to be able to attack them because it's more of that one-dimensional running back look. That's why Henry and Lamar are working so well together, and it just shows. But to give the other guys shit for you didn't sign Derrick Henry doesn't mean he's going to be what he is on the Dallas Cowboys or in Tennessee, because we saw that last year.
It's definitely not the same.
You're playing them completely different, right?
Completely different, and you're utilizing them in the best way possible with exactly what you just said. The option plays that they have at their disposal, because you can either go left, right, forward, straight, fucking whatever, over. Who cares? Something's going to come out of that, and you don't know on the other side of the ball what that is. So, no, it's a massive massive opportunity, like you just said, with good comparison there with Hurts and Saquon. You don't know who's going to get the ball at the goal line, and you cannot sometimes
that's tough to stop. Now, I'll tell you, it's funny because the Bengals have had the script on how to beat these guys.
Yeah,
they haven't been able to. When I looked at that game, this is how you beat the Ravens. You go up by a 2-score lead, you get them away from their running game, and then you just get a turnover of some sort, steal a possession, you close out the game, you win. You force them to make errors, things like that. But our defense, no pass rush whatsoever.
No pass rush.
Creating no turnovers. We lost that one turnover. It shifted the momentum in that last game. And then they just floodgates open and they kept going, right? Like, you can't beat Lamar if you don't have a pass rush. If you don't get pressure in his face, you're never going to beat him. And you got to get up by 2-score lead. Like, that's just, you got to slow down the running game and make them throw and make them make errors. But we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, man. But I do think that's how you beat these guys. You just got to find the right team to do it.
Yeah. So I'll still go with that other team. Chiefs? Just because it's hard not to. And they're about to get Pacheco back. And I'm curious to see what Kareem Hunt and Pacheco out of the backfield look like. I think that's a very interesting play to, like we just said, give a lot of options and a lot of different looks. You got a hard guy and you got a finesse guy, and somewhat Kareem Hunt can be both still. So it'll be a interesting look to see how that gets utilized, because we know Andy Reid's just going to figure something out with those guys and use it appropriately. So I think it's going to be a tough scene, and the defense, like we had mentioned, is just when I can't remember what game it was. It was I think it was 2 weeks ago, and they stuffed the team on the 4 plays straight on the goal line. And I was just like, I can't tell whether or not this is a coaching fault or this team is just outrageous on defense. And that's enough for me. So, okay, let's move on to the NFC. We've briefly discussed some of these teams already, but kind of let's break it down. Start with the NFC East. We have obviously the Philadelphia Eagles that are leading right now, 8-2. There's been a lot of shit going on with this team throughout the season here, between injuries, coaching, whatever the fuck's been going on there. Nick Sirianni's been an interesting character, but they've shown up big time, and obviously they have the assets to do so. It's just a matter of time. They've dealt with some injuries between AJ Brown. Devontae has been up and down a little bit this season, but they have all the offensive gifts. They have that capability. But the biggest thing out of this division has been the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels.
Absolutely.
And
it's been the story for sure.
Definitely not the season that Dallas expected, for sure. I think it's maybe what everyone else expected, but
not them.
Not them. Yeah.
Such a delusional organization, man. It makes no sense to me.
I actually finally understand. Okay, what it's like with this team right here, and the fan base of what a delusional fan base reflects. And trust me, I try to not be that fan. I try to be as realistic as possible. I try to hold it. It's always our year, though. That's one thing. But holy fuck, watching Dallas just continue to run the same fucking square peg through the hole is fucking awesome. Whatever the fuck that saying is, but that's ridiculous.
Trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Yeah, absolutely.
Holy fuck.
I don't even think you need to elaborate on it. I don't
know. We don't. I don't know
what the plan was here, but you did nothing to get better.
Nothing.
Like, you did absolutely nothing. You didn't fill any voids. Like, I don't know if this was like a let's see kind of year for Jerry, or like what the game plan was here.
Paid the fucking bank. If
if
it's a let's see, it's a let's you shown. So now let's go. So like, holy fuck,
we just talked about
$347 million, I think, between the two of them. CD and you can't blame, well, maybe Dak, but you can't blame CD. Like that's where the money was invested the right way. Now Dak has just been, it's honestly, I don't know.
Well, it's a struggle. There's such a They're such a one-dimensional team.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know
have
how
to
you
pass the
expect to
ball.
win
Yeah.
when you roll out one receiver and just no running game whatsoever.
Yeah.
And no secondary receiver help. Like you're just not gonna win football games.
Yeah.
Like Dak isn't
Yep.
fucking Jesus, man. Like it's not.
He's certainly not.
It's not happening, man. This guy's not turning this team into a 12-win team with that roster, and you can't do that. So you got to go back to the drawing board and actually put together a plan and figure out how you're going to make this team better, because that ain't it, man. And then you look at Washington; they've had great success so far, starting to come a little bit, back to earth here these last couple games as they start to play better teams. So we'll see how that shakes out down the line. But Eagles have looked a lot better. I will say they didn't look the greatest last night, but their defense is starting to play really well. Like the one thing with the Eagles is, dude, they draft so well.
They do.
Like so well. Even the cornerbacks they got, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, walking out with the T-shirt he had last night. I'm dying. The Exciting Whites shirt, that is
Exciting
hilarious,
Whites.
man.
That's
you
wild.
gotta get that. You gotta get that for sale, and I'm telling you, that shit will.
It is. I saw it. I saw it on the. Yeah, it is actually already a thing.
That's some funny shit. But dude, they're playing phenomenal now.
Yeah.
That's a scary team if their defense is playing, up front and that secondary is on the same page. I think it's going to be them in Detroit, going up for that NFC title game. And it's going to be one of those two in the finals because they're the two best teams. I don't think anyone's taking it to them.
If Philly can stay relatively healthy here, I think that is absolutely the right call. I think these other teams, there are some sneaky teams in the NFC. I know we talked about coaching on, general, but there are some actually really good coaches kind of snuck into, and honestly keeping a lot of the NFC teams alive, I would say is more coaching than fucking play right now. And, the NFC East, I think, is wrapped up. I think, Philadelphia is going to continue to kind of win those games. And they just, again, we have Saquon starting to show up like it was, Saquon's already hit the 1,000 mark on yards. Like he's having a season. He's going to continue to have a season. Nothing should fall short of that.
No. Career year for him.
Hopefully, again, just, health stays his way. That's been something of his past, but I think he's okay at this point in time and will continue to show up in that regard. And they just have so many weapons on offense. Like we're talking about the balanced offense. You can go any direction on this team and succeed, especially on offense. So
every level.
Yeah, like literally every position. So they're set. Washington still's got some, like we said, some bumps along the road here to kind of hurdle and get an understanding of how winning comes and can be a part of it. But it's been a nice surprise, and definitely I like to see where this team is going to go because I actually think they're a likable team too.
I agree. It's very refreshing. Like we
Cowboys,
said before,
fuck them.
Yeah, and Giants too, man. I think they're talking about. We can touch on that quick. They're talking about Daniel Jones and the injury clause in his contract. He might have played his last snap for the Giants, man. After that game in Germany, that might be a wrap. They don't want to see him get injured and then have that clause kick in, so they're going to shut him down. You'll probably see Drew Lock for the rest of the year, kind of like similar to a Russell Wilson thing Denver did last year. And then the Giants will be, they're going to be looking for a quarterback coming into the draft and figuring that out. So that's kind of a wrap on them. Now let's bump into the NFC North here,
which was my contender for the best division. And you had long said, "Hey, AFC is really good." AFC North, we got
AFC North is still there. Like,
I want to know, if you were to say AFC North, NFC North right now, they're pretty tight on the competitive nature here. So we'll see.
It is pretty tight.
They're solid. This division's fucking awesome. I've enjoyed watching this division.
It is good. I mean, the Bears are falling apart here a little bit.
Yes, that's the one sore spot.
They're talking about starting Tyson Bagent, and I'm like, what are we fucking doing?
Yeah, this is wild.
I think after that New England game, honestly, Eberflus should have been fired, but they're probably going to ride out the season and then look at the coaching availabilities and go from there. I don't see them sticking with him next year. After this, you can't be losing games to the Patriots.
Well, this management side of thing, like, it's
just wild.
You need to fucking, like, again, we briefly spoke about this, but you need to build out from your line. Like, you know, you as a Bengals fan know this above all. Like, you got to protect your guy. And
see, Caleb Williams isn't Joe Burrow though, so Joey B can get away with some shitty O-line play.
I think Caleb Williams has been put into an interesting situation where, you know, we thought if this team was going to succeed, it was going to succeed on the offensive side, and that has not happened.
And funny enough, it's been the defense.
Defense has been actually held them in check. So this offensive line has just, you know, obliterated any opportunity for Caleb Williams to understand. Caleb Williams also way too fucking cocky, way too confident coming into this fucking season. You are not that guy. You got to realize that this fucking, you know, people around you are fucking pretty fast too. And this is a step up from the college game. So he came in thinking he was the shit. And buddy, you are not the shit at this particular time. And this league is making you look like a fucking... Yeah.
Dude, did you see the stat where it's like when he got drafted, he called the punter. He's just like, hey,
you're not going to do it.
You're not going to be punting much this year. Yeah. And then I think the punter has more air yards from punting.
He has more than Caleb Williams does.
That's some funny
phenomenal.
Shit.
Fucking phenomenal. That's just honestly,
hey, man, like this is where we talked about you stop expecting these guys to just come into the league and light it on fire, man. Those are anomalies. Like it just doesn't – it's not going to happen like that all the time. Be patient. Get a coach in there that knows how to bring this team together, and go from there. But
I hope it's good for him.
It is.
I hope it humbles
him.
him.
He's still fucking young.
Yeah,
Relax.
I hope it goes like, oh, all right, you know, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought. I gotta put in some work for the first fucking time.
Yeah, man.
And, you know, not be this you know, Jaden Daniels right now. Might be better than you, pal.
See, the thing with Jaden Daniels, I look at it
as like
people forget Dan Quinn was a fucking head coach. He took a team to the Super Bowl. Mind you, the biggest blown lead in the history of the game, but he still has been a successful coach in this league, and that's the difference between Caleb and Jaden Daniels is Dan Quinn's just a smarter coach. He knows what he's been doing, and he's been successful. And that's really the difference is just the coaching, I think, and having a plan.
That's what I was saying.
We'll see. But then you look at like the other teams all have great coaches. You got Matt LaFleur for Green Bay, and then you got Kevin O'Connell's been great for Minnesota, and we
every single one of them
singing the praises for Dan Quinn in Detroit. So it's you see what the difference is here. What did I say, Dan Quinn?
Yeah,
got you.
It's a couple Dans. It's all good.
Yes, couple. Yeah. But you got Green Bay sitting at 6-3, Minnesota 7-2, Detroit 8-1. I think 3 teams are getting in from this division probably.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think all 3 of those teams are good.
As long as Jordan Love can kind of stay afloat here and they can manage that him and his health to that. I think that's the biggest question mark with Green Bay is just being able to survive. I think at this point, and if they are, then I think they're actually they're just, you know, this team. Packers have always just been such a good run organization. So this is those 3 for sure. Philly, Washington, and we'll move on to the NFC South because we already talked enough about the NFC North and before there,
Detroit and all them. But NFC South, I just want to touch on that. My New Orleans take at the start of the year
was bang on.
Fucking spot on. Scared me first 2 weeks. Fucking scared me.
96 points right down your throat.
I knew this team was going to be dog shit. Yeah. And if I was to say there was going to be a coach that was going to be fired midseason, it was going to be that idiot for the New Orleans Saints. Because I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. He's so ass. Like, what the fuck is this guy's name again? He was also the coach for the Dennis Allen. That's it. Dennis Allen. There we go. Oh, buddy. He was dog shit when he was the coach for the Raiders too. And the only reason he got the coaching job is because they had to find a new coach. Sean Payton left. Yeah. And bro, dude, he is just an awful head coach. And he would have been my guy to go for sure. And seeing it come to fruition. Yeah. It's nice to say, you're right. But New Orleans just Come on,
Yeah,
man.
this division as a whole was an interesting one. I think Atlanta, we both had winning it, with Tampa
Yeah.
in second. I think that was both of our takes, and then whatever the hell else happened between the other two. Um, and so I think the biggest thing with Tampa is, Baker actually was on a tear, and this team's offense was on a tear at one point, and
Yeah,
then
they
just
lost their guys.
died, like literally died. Like Godwin, obviously, his status is still kind of up in the air, but I think he's definitely done. And then Mike
For
Evans
the
is
season,
coming
for
back
sure.
in the
Yeah.
next, I think either this week or the next. So
Yeah.
that is
And that's,
something
you
to
know
be
what? I
mindful of.
will I
But
will give Baker props, man. He's been dishing
still
it out
playing,
there
man.
with just
Yeah,
Kate Otten and a
yeah.
bunch of third,
He's
fourth
made Kate on look like
stringer
Travis
receivers.
Kelsey at
Like,
this point. Like,
yeah, no kidding. Like
yeah,
he has been playing really
yep,
well for a guy who lost both his top receiving options. And they're 4-6 right now. They're on a 4-game losing streak, but
yeah,
they're right there. Like they
yep,
lost an OT to the Chiefs. They're losing close games, but it's just tough, man, when you don't got your guys. So hopefully they can get healthy and make a run here. But
yep,
they might be a fringe wild card team depending on the other divisions if they can start to string some wins together.
yep,
But it's tough, man, when you lose your weapons like that. I get it. And then Carolina is Carolina. It's Atlanta, I think, but even Atlanta, man, they just dropped the game to the Saints this
yep,
past week. And that's
yep.
kind of what Atlanta does, man. And that's why
Yeah,
it's so hard to take them because you never know what you're going to get with them. They
yep.
just take off weeks, man. Sometimes
Yeah,
you're like,
they're
fuck it. We're just not even going to show up for this one.
yeah. No, it's fair. It's again, for a team with as much talent as they have on offense, or what they can be. Kirk Chains, my man, that guy's been doing a great job, but there's definitely just
Yeah,
ups
because
and
fucking
downs with
half
him
your
too.
fantasy team is Atlanta players
I
right now.
fucking love
Bet you were
Mooney. I love,
sweating out
yeah,
that Mooney injury.
Pitts.
You're like,
Yeah.
no, my guy.
Oh,
Fuck. What am I going to do this week?
every week I question everything, but that's okay. That's
Buddy, you were
okay.
flying high. He's
Yeah.
throwing up draft picks. He's like, let me get guys. We're going to the ship.
Yeah, you got to do it. Sometimes it's just what it is.
When Jeff
I got
gets on
some
his
healthy
high
guys.
horse, he
Yeah, when I
gets
get
on
some
his
healthy
fucking
guys.
high
Yeah,
horse.
fucking yeah, coming from you. Let's let's be real. Fuck. But no, hey, we're all, I think so. This is actually wild. Our division and our keeper league, our fucking dynasty, like 6 teams are 5-5 right now,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
It's pretty
That's a
wild.
tight fucking run league, and that is a competitive league. So I will say that I was able to come back from 0-4. So I'm pretty happy about being 5-5 at this point.
I think
So,
you got the most
fucking
points
right.
for right now too.
I do, yeah. So I'm fucking. I still think I got a good team here, and if we got to throw a pick in there, I don't like next year's draft. To be fair, like where if I think I settle out of the top 5, I really love it. I know there is some depth a little bit in the first round, but
I will say there's
there is an
probably
opportunity
more. I don't think it's so top loaded aside from like Ashton Genty.
Yeah, Genty is your prize pick for sure.
That's for sure. And as far as I'm concerned, he's going to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they'll do everything.
I think Dallas is drafting him. That's a Dallas Cowboy pick if I've ever seen one.
Yes.
So at this point, I think there's a lot more depth on the back end of it that if you don't watch too much college football, you wouldn't have any idea really who's there. But I think it's spread out a little bit more now. It's not so like stud heavy at the front. But I get what you're saying for sure.
Yeah. So you got to go for it. Some years just make sense. Fuck it.
Absolutely. Got to go for it. Well, so we'll see. We'll update you guys on what comes to fruition in that league because it's going to be a fun one. Hopefully it's me and Jeff in the finals. Give you guys a show.
Let's see it. But let's move on to the NFC West. We know what the NFC South is, but NFC West
I love this division because Arizona Cardinals are leading it. Like
you did call that at the very beginning.
Did we say at the start we're like Arizona is going to be a sneaky team, and lo and behold, these guys are leading the division right now.
Yep.
Now I will say San Fran's gone through just an absolutely injury-riddled season again.
Yeah.
If it wasn't the most on-brand thing for San Fran, they're going to have those seasons. I think Kittle's status this weekend is up in the air.
Yeah, their whole
Ayuk gone for the season. Finally get McCaffrey back. Yeah, which is great to see that. Not only for the likes of my fantasy team, but because who doesn't like watching McCaffrey on a Sunday? Just tear defenses apart. It's a great fucking sight. But now you got that. I think the Rams just dropped one to Miami. I don't know what to make of them. They're so hot and cold. You thought getting Puka back and Cooper Kupp, they'd be
Their
getting
offense,
it together,
I think,
but man, just
it's up and down. Puka is definitely feeling it still. Cooper's feeling his age, I think. There are times when you can kind of see them, get those big games, and Kyron is the most, I want to say, like, I don't know if you can even call him underrated, but like I feel like Kyron Williams in this fucking league, just he's not talked about nearly enough.
I know.
Like nearly enough. Like it's like
he's top 5 back right now.
Top 3. Like ranking wise and everything that he brings to that team, usage as well. Top 3. I'd push that even like closer, top 2. Mm-hmm. Like
he might not be as sexy as
not as sexy, but
the Saquons and shit like that. But he is as steady as any back in this league.
And this team relies on him, which is the biggest factor in everything. Like there are some
good balance.
Yeah, like when Josh Jacobs got up there in his rankings, it was solely based on the fact that they relied on his touches and his carries. And this is the same thing that the Rams do right now, especially as these receivers have been hurt, and Stafford's obviously getting up there too, but he's still able to put up some points here and there.
Fuck yeah! This whole division's still up in the air, man.
Arizona, it is. It is interesting. Seahawks are
still there too.
They fell off significantly.
3-0. Did they start 3-0?
They started 3-0, and then they went 3-3.
Wild, wild ride for them.
Yeah, so it's bad.
So that's who do you? I think it's got to be San Fran. That's just the easy take
out of this division.
Once you got McCaffrey coming back, I think
they'll take the last bit.
He is such a massive piece to this offense. Any offense, that type of player, it's crazy.
I can't count out the Cardinals because I feel like the depth in the division rests in the Cardinals from an offensive perspective. Yep. I think you can't count that out. San Fran, getting back CMC is massive, but they still have a lot of holes. They're going to be using a lot of different guys like Juwan Jennings and Ricky Purcell, like to fucking make sense of anything on their offense, especially with like Kittle up in the air too. So it's going to be tough. If CMC, like, I know you're really on this, I still think they're going to load manage him throughout the rest of the season here. They have to if they have any opportunity. And if anything pops up, it's going to be fucking tough, man. But that's my only concern with the San Fran.
Full form McCaffrey here, I promise you that.
Oh, let's hope. I'd love to see it. I'm a fan, so it's just a matter of
it's gonna. I think it's more so just like,
but they can't rely on him so much because of the situation with the rest of the injuries. So if you're gonna force his touches, you're gonna force that injury risk, and that's my concern here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the beauty is you got a guy in Jordan Mason who was pretty steady the first bit until he got injured. But they had the bye week. Like, he's got to be a little bit healthier at this point to be able to share a bit of it. But dude, once McCaffrey gets going, man, and he's good, like, there's no stopping him. He's going to get his touches, and it is what it is.
He's the best fucking back in the game.
Yeah. But I do think this division is probably the biggest toss-up, man. Like,
it is a toss-up.
Any of these teams could win a string of games. Like, San Fran plays Seattle this weekend.
Yeah, it could just been a shitty spell for the Seahawks, and everything could.
DK's coming back too, so who knows?
DK's coming back.
Like, this is going to be a fun one to see, as the NFC West in the end here. But let's kind of wrap this up.
Who's your take out of it? Who do you think?
I think I touched on Philly, Detroit as the conference final game.
Yeah.
But that's so boring because everybody is taking them to be like, it just seems too fucking easy to me, man.
It's too simple. We're going Vikings.
Like, I don't think I'm not sold on Atlanta. I think I'm gonna go San Fran, Detroit, man. I think it's gonna be San Fran, Detroit again.
San Fran, Detroit. I like that.
San Fran, Detroit again.
That's an aggressive play given the scenario here.
Just because I'm gonna go opposite everybody else's take of Philly, Detroit is the shoe-in right now. Yes. But I'll give you this little nugget, man, and I think last game sold it perfectly with Detroit. I think Lions fans are going to get they're soon going to find out why LA traded Goff in the first place on a team right
Interesting
now
take. Yeah.
where people talk about like Goff was kind of in the MVP conversation.
Yeah.
Goff was amazing and took his team to the Super Bowl in LA too. When they
Yeah.
had a star-studded roster in their prime, and then what happened? They didn't have that same roster, right? They had guys on higher contracts. It's the exact same thing in Detroit that's going to play out here. You
Mm-hmm.
got this window where if he doesn't win, I promise you, it's going to be Jared Goff again, and these guys aren't going to win the big games, and you're going to be looking for a quarterback. I promise you. It's going to be the same story because I don't think Jared Goff is the guy that gets it done in those moments. He has such a good roster.
Yes.
Let me put it this way. If you took Joe Burrow and put him on the Detroit Lions, nobody is fucking beating that team. Nobody.
For sure. I would never
Absolutely nobody. Yeah. So when I look at Detroit, I go, they have an amazing team. The one person that's going to hold them back is going to be Jared Goff. And I think you saw a bit of that last game.
Yeah, it was definitely a come to Jesus moment with 5 picks, and he still I think he still threw 272 yards.
Well, so you got to. You're down by 2 scores.
You got to keep checking. I did have pass attempts and completions in that game.
That's how you remember.
I did laugh at that because I think honestly I cashed out on the pass attempts, and it was Dallas. No, I think so.
Potentially.
I think it was Dallas, and they're just shit. Dallas is shit. So you just have to imagine that even then it's still not going to work out. But I think the biggest takeaway is the coaching right now between Detroit and Philly, and I'm going to lean Detroit in that sense because Nick Sirianni, he's up and down, but I'm gonna kind of rest on the team and how they're running for the guy right now, and the culture that's in that organization and everything that's surrounding it. It just reeks of we're going to get this shit done. And I think they all want to succeed for each other, which is a difference maker. And Philadelphia, I think, is definitely that other team that is really, really fucking well built. I think they're just really well built, and they still have
exactly though. That's the only problem.
Yes, and so
Dan Campbell versus Sirianni, I'm going to take the Dan Campbell side
100%,
100 times.
And that's my take on this. But I do agree that Philly. I think Philly has every bit of the roster to get there and make that happen. It's just whether or not they can kind of pull it out in those big games. And they've been there. They've done it too. It's just a matter of kind of making that happen again. So I think Detroit was just on the precipice of making that happen last season. Yeah. And I think this is going to be the season that they kind of tip the scales.
So with that being said, who's your Super Bowl matchup? Our midway picks. Classic.
And Detroit. That's my picks.
Amazing.
I like KC Detroit. I think that's,
That's the default, and it's probably going to end up that way. But you know me, we're going to go Bengals versus Detroit. Joey B's going to put on a show rest of the year here. In my heart, the defense is just, it's not there. So when I look at this, I think it's got to be Baltimore-Detroit realistically. It's probably going to be Baltimore-Detroit. As much as I hate to say that, I don't see any other team making it there except for Baltimore or KC at this point. Mm-hmm. I had somebody say Buffalo. I don't think Buffalo's going to beat these guys. Buffalo's going to have to go to KC, or they're going to have to go to Baltimore, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
I don't see them winning that game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing out of this is seeing how this game this weekend lines up and how that matchup goes, and if it does have a playoff atmosphere feel to it, which I think is going to, then we might see that maybe Buffalo is that team that we're just overlooking, because I think they can be. They have been historically. They got some injury struggles, though, that they're dealing with. That's the point of which I'm saying no. But I think there's always that possibility that they can shock you. But
see, I don't really give a shit about the regular season with Buffalo. To me, it's like it's only the playoffs because he's got a winning record against Mahomes in regular season.
Yeah,
it's just the playoffs. And when you got to go to KC, that'll be
KC is
interesting to see. But
Yeah.
I think it's Detroit on the NFC side, and that's kind of how it's going to play out.
Let's roll with that. I love to see it.
Pretty solid, pretty eventful up to this point. And we got our takes coming in for the weekend. We're going to get that out to you guys soon. I think we're going to probably film that tomorrow sometime.
Yep.
Try and get you guys out before Sunday's slate of games here. We got some stuff we want to talk on. Get some bets out there because I know it's been a while since we've had some plays to go.
Yeah,
off.
we gotta kick it in gear here and obviously make sure that we're getting this stuff out. And I think we do have. We've been in the background working hard on some of the structure of this, and just able to kind of format this stuff ahead of time. So really and truly, it's just been about time. And just kind of piecing it all together and affording that to us. So appreciate you guys sticking around and being a part of this. Play Action Nation, we will never slow down on this. So you can trust on that.
Not. I mean, we love talking sports. We hope you guys love tuning in.
Absolutely.
We'll be back quick, so you guys stay tuned. Appreciate that. Take care. Play Action Nation. Out. See you guys next time.
Easy.